Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming with the discussion on the subject of Kingdom Come Deliverance, and its possible release delay on PC so that it gets released simultaneously on PC and the consoles Xbox One and PS4. The reason behind this is, per what the developers at Warhorse themselves have stated, is that they're negotiating right now with the publisher to distribute the game. It's a very different relation to typical publisher-developer relation. It's just to distribute the game, nothing more. And because of that, because of the negotiations, the publisher wants to sync up the release. Makes sense on a business level from their perspective. I agree with that. To sync up the release of PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Makes sense, right? You're always going to have the most amount of publicity and attention when a game gets first released, and having it on more system at the same time makes sense. The problem is, of course, people are kind of pissed off about it. Me, not so much, and there's a couple of reasons behind it. It is a worrying sign, yes, but you need to understand a couple of points from the very start, because some people have mentioned, oh, it used to be a PC exclusive thing. No, it never was PC exclusive from the very start on the Kickstarter campaign. Hell, there's articles you can find in December 2013, a full month before the Kickstarter campaign in January of 2014, 22nd of January 2014. I backed the game on Kickstarter, I should fucking know. Anyway, that there were articles talking about the console version, that the game was, that this was a game for PC, Xbox One, PS4. They mentioned it on Kickstarter, they mentioned it in their early videos, the first live stream they did of the game, they mentioned it. What they weren't so certain about is whether or not they could actually release a console version. They had wanted to make one, but they weren't certain if they would be able to, but they did want to make one. And then during the Kickstarter campaign on February 18th, during those 30 days of the Kickstarter campaign, they confirmed that they would be able to actually do it because they had gotten in contact with Sony and Microsoft, and they would be able to achieve what they wanted to there in terms of making console versions for Kingdom Come Deliverance. But the idea perhaps was that they would focus more on the PC version, release that first, and release the console versions later. Now they're talking about delaying that. And that's not much of a problem for my perspective, though there is reason to worry for it. But yeah, that's just the first point when it comes to that particular point discussion. Second point, when it comes down to this, as far as I see it, some people might be pissed, the people who have backed the game on Kickstarter, but you need to understand the majority of the funding for the game is not from Kickstarter. In fact, Kickstarter is a smaller part of the funding for the game. Recently they've talked about getting double-digit millions from a private investor in the Czech Republic, who's one of the richest men in the Czech Republic. That's what they've talked about. They don't want to talk about their budget. When I did an interview with them, when I sent them a bunch of questions and I asked them about the budget, they didn't answer any of those. Now they're suddenly saying that. I guess it was convenient at the time to not talk about that. Not so convenient right now. You can dodge some of that responsibility and say, we have to work with the private investor. A bit dodgy there on their part, as I see it. Nothing too bad, just a bit dodgy, as I see it, when it comes to something like that. However, the vast majority of their funding, and they've been clear on this from day one, the reason Kickstarter happened was to prove to this private investor that there was an interest in the game. The original idea behind the development of Kingdom Come Deliverance is that the private investor gave them money for them to make a demo, and they would take that demo, present it to a game publisher, get the funding for a traditional game publisher. That didn't work out. That didn't happen because publishers at the time, in late 2013, were not interested. So they took it to Kickstarter in January 2014, after the consoles had been released. And they did get funding for Kickstarter, but they were clear from the start that it was only going to be a portion of the funding. Their original stretch goal was only enough to secure 10% of the overall budget that they had envisioned at the time. But obviously with the success of Kickstarter, getting more money, getting attention, getting the news and all that, they probably have gotten more money from this investor and possibly others. And now they're talking with the publisher to distribute the game. That's fine. There's various publishers out there. We'll see. I'm pretty sure some people will be outraged if it's something like Ubisoft or Sega or EA or anything like that, right? Might be Paradox. Paradox could work. There's others, obviously, other choices. We'll see what happens when it comes down to it. Who they're negotiating with. Warner Brothers, better stay the fuck away from Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, not too bad. Could be worse. Could be a lot worse, actually, than Warner Brothers. Anyway, so that's another point on that. And then there's the third point that I want to make here is that in theory, and I'm stressing that word, in theory, it's not a bad thing if the game gets ready. If they're gonna rush the game to release it at the same time in summer, then that's a bad thing. You know, if they're gonna rush it out to get it all free. If they, however, delay it to give themselves more time to make the console versions, then that's in theory not a bad thing, because they can have more time to, you know, improve the PC version besides making console versions work. In theory, in practice, we've been getting screwed over and over again by numerous developers and publishers when it comes to PC versions. The idea of parity between versions, the idea of, you know, it's not fair, you know, as a developer for The Division with Ubisoft said recently, it's not fair for the console users that the PC version looks much better. In 2016. Okay, you know what's not fair? Being required to spend much more on a PC, on a PC to run the game at about the same performance level as on a console, because you couldn't give a fuck to optimize the PC version, and that's happened with Ubisoft games quite often, actually. Or not that much with other games, or spending thousands of dollars on a PC and then having comparable visuals to a piece of crap consoles that's $500, $400. That's fair in the minds of developers. So anyway, that's you know, that's a worrying trend. As I said, in theory, it might not be a problem. It might actually work out in the end. You just have to deal with the delay. I don't personally mind too much. You know, there's a good number of games coming out. And to be honest, looking at the alpha, beta is coming out tomorrow on the 3rd of March. But looking at having played the alpha, I think they still have a lot of work to do. There's some beta footage out there. People have played through it. And, you know, even looking at that, there's still plenty of work to be done on the game, so maybe they would have had to delay it anyway, so might not be a big issue. Just don't screw us over. You know, that's the fourth point, that they still have a lot of work to do, and that it might not be a bad thing to actually delay it. You know, just in general, not for the consoles, just in general, to delay it to actually get things more in order when it comes to the game. Okay, well, we'll see. I think we all see with bated breath what these guys will do. I'll say this much. I'll say this much to the people at Warhorse. If you're doing this because you're greedy, because you want to achieve higher success, just remember one point. You wouldn't be here if people had not thrown their support behind you, their goodwill. You've earned some goodwill. Don't think that gives you an excuse to take the piss on PC users or part of your fan base. You know, this is a company that didn't introduce a third-person mode in their game because they would have pissed off about 30% of the people in a poll on their forums, and now they do this. If they screw us over, then yeah, people will be furious. They'll be outraged. They'll crucify them. That's what's gonna happen, and rightly so. They deserve it. You know, just like, say for instance, CD Projekt Red deserved to be crucified for the shit they did with The Witcher 3. Hey, let's make this entire series up until Witcher 3 PC exclusive and show that we give a damn about our fan base, and then with the third game we suddenly don't, and we take the piss on them, right? Because it's convenient. Yes, I wish developers... Well, that's not surprising. Companies in Eastern Europe in general are complete scumbags. Shouldn't be surprised if that happens. Wouldn't be surprised, would be disappointed, would be furious, but wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I hope it doesn't. I hope Warhorse sticks with their principles and, you know, sticks with their fan base and, you know, makes it so that we didn't just waste our goodwill with them. That's all I had to say on this subject. Costin here on Serious Gaming signing out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and stay tuned. I'm gonna play the beta when that comes out.